Okay, so today is another day. I haven't worked on this at all off camera because I've been ill. So this track has taken me a bit longer than I'd like to. Usually like to try and finish a track within the week, but nevertheless, we're crack on. And today I am hoping to get done first break and maybe up until the second break or just before. We'll see how we get on. Because we've got majority of the elements already found, you know, with these womps and the bass hits and the whistle, everything should come together quite easily, and I know the direction of the track I want to take because of the reference tracks. So we will see how we get on. I've listened to the track from the start, so it's sounding pretty good. So what I will do, just for your guys' reference, is I will play it from here up until the first break, just so you can get a good idea of how it's sounding now. So a lot of stuff needs mixing properly, but it's got the exact vibe and effect on the listener that I'm wanting to have. So now this is what we've got to work on. So we're going to have a lot of automation through the drums and the percussion, sort of creating that washed out, spaced out effect. Synth wise, we just need to automate some of these resonances and these tantrum noises in. Start stripping away, so we're starting to build back up again. And then you start to feel it come back in. So already I can sort of see the direction of how this breakdown is going to work. So let's crack in straight away. So let's start from the top. So the transition into the break is fine. We've got that vocal and whistle just helping smooth out that sort of transition between where the bass is in and the bass is out. Now I'm just having to think, okay, is there anything I want to do with the low end here? I don't think I want to drop it back in. I think I want to build the tension all the way up, so I'm going to keep the low end out. Maybe we could just add a little kick fill on the end here. So if we just slide this one that way, duplicate. Just that sort of helps transition into not having the kick. Just adds a little bit of variation. So I know there's nothing I'm going to want to do with this bass line with automation. I may want to take away that later on. We'll see how the rest of the breakdown goes, but now let's move further on down. So the drums are definitely going to want to reverb on this breakdown, so let's just do that, see how intense that is. So due to the nature of this track, I think I mentioned this in a previous video, I can get away with whacking quite a lot of reverb on it because it already has that spaced out, washed out, deep effect. If I wanted to go for something a bit techy and harder, then I'm probably going to want to use less reverb. Something like that. But for this track, about there sounds right. Okay, so we don't need to automate the clap. Hats, we can affect them again. So start driving that up. So that sounds good. And what I'm thinking as well is to filter the drums. I still want to keep that rolling feeling, so I don't think I want all the drums to come away until this last break for maybe 4-8 bars. But what we can do is we can just test run to see what it sounds like by just automating it without recording anything. So maybe keep them in for this bit. So it sounds too empty with the kick in there, so I'm going to keep it with the filter all the way up until the kick comes out. Remember, we're going to be adding some synths in, so that's going to help fill out the noise, or fill out the mix, should I say. So let's just see what's going on in this one here. Yeah, so I'm sort of feeling all these hats to come out where that last clap is, like I did on that short break before. Maybe even the clap to come out as well on this one to add some difference compared to the last break. Leave it there, I reckon. And I'm just going to add a bit of curve automation to this one. So let's just try it with the filter. Let's just go click on it, show automation. And let's just do that. Because we've got this pad to come in, so that's going to sort of help fill out the sound. And it might sound quite nice. Sort of like we've done there. Have the filter all the way, have the filter all the way back up where that clap comes in. Or maybe out. Let's try it with the clap in first, because it's easier to delete than to put it back in and automate everything again. So we'll leave it like that for a minute. It might work better later on with it cut out, but who knows? We'll see. So that is so that is the drums automated. Now let's start adding some effects to the percussion. So again, I'm just going to drive this up, this one up, and I'm going to add some reverb to this one. But I'm going to give it quite a tight slope, just so it sort of creates more of a whoosh feeling. I'm probably going to enhance that, something like that. Bit less drastic, and I'm not going to delay because we've got stuff like that going on from the crystallizer. Sometimes, depending on the track, if the track I'm making is more sort of drums, bass and rolling vocal, then I'd probably look at adding a new effect during this first breakdown, again using send and returns, so crystallizer, Saturn, Effectric, something like that. But because of the nature of this track, and it's very full, I won't be doing that. But it's always good to just think about, is the track full enough? Does it actually need these effects and elements, or is it just going to create too much and take away from the groove and the sounds already in the track? Which I think it would personally take away if we started affecting too much, because we've got plenty of stuff in here coming in, such as this noise and this noise and this noise here. So we don't want to distract the listener too much, because we want these new noises to be the focal point of this breakdown. Right, so let's carry on. So we can pretty much now, so I'm gonna, that's where my mistake is. There we go. So that's probably solved that issue. I wondered what was going on there. So we can probably look to start adding in this atmosphere pad now. I can't remember if I was going to play this in as a chord. Probably needs to be up an octave. Or we're going to put this main pad in. Yeah, so I remember what we're going to do with this pad now. So it was going to be used as like a texture pad. So we're going to then layer the texture noises we're going to get from this pad with our main pad. So how we're going to do that is we're going to insert an audio track and we are going to resample again. So first off, we're actually going to find out what note we're going to play, or if we're going to play a chord. So it doesn't actually seem to affect too much the texture. But I think we're going to play a chord just for the sake of it, so just because there seems to be more going on. So we're going to get them on that note there. It doesn't matter where we're placing it on the grid because we're going to resample anyway. And then we're going to record enable this audio channel. And we're going to record. And we're making sure that tails out so nothing comes through on the volume sort of fader or channel on this one here. And then, whoops. There we go, that sounds a bit better. So now we can cut out this first bit because that's what we don't want. And there's a little bit of it still there. But I think what might work nicely is putting a little fader on it. Yeah, so that sounds good in my opinion. So now we can either turn off or delete this atmosphere pad. I'm going to delete it just to save on CPU usage. And there we have a new little sound that we can use in this breakdown. So I think placing that one around about here, so it sort of fades in and helps that transition from when the kick comes out. Remember, this is going to sit much better in the mix once we put this pad in as well, because we can then either resample them and put them as a group or keep them separate. I think for the sake of mixing purposes, we'll probably keep them separate. Yeah, so I think that's a chord I want to play. So just as a bass, we're going to start with that one. Unfortunately, you can't see what I'm doing on my push here, but my push is effectively doing the scale feature within the keyboard roll here. So I can then, as you can see here, that is the chord I'm playing. So you really don't need to know too much music knowledge when it comes to chords and stuff like that, and you can really just experiment. So let's just lay that one down, drag him all the way out, and then what we can do is we can experiment, see if there's a better chord we can find. with like octave jumps. We're going up a few notes to create another chord. So I'm liking the sound of that one. Sounds a bit too high, that one. And then what we're going to do is going to highlight all of them, bring up the velocity, and just bring that down to create that more sort of dubbed effect that we're trying to go for. Stretch it out, so now it's filling the whole break. Delete those ones because we don't need them. Go like so, and you can drag those out like so. So now we've got that in, let's see if there's any parameters we can start playing around with. So I feel like we're going to play around with that parameter later on in the arrangement, probably in the main break. So I feel like that's something we could just slightly start to introduce in this break, but maybe leave the majority of it out. To see what happens when we put a phaser on it. It's nice. And we'll just run some reverb and delay through this one. So that's a good starting point to work with. So first thing we're going to put on the chain is a sidechain plugin. That's just going to help it sit in the mix a bit better. We can then detune it by using Stereo Savage. And that's adding some whip to it as well. So again, it's just helping that pad fill out the track. And then we will just do some subtractive EQing, just checking there's no low end in it, which I imagine there is. So let's get rid of that and cut it at 100. Actually, there's not much at all, so that's good. And then lastly on the chain, we are going to add an auto filter. So then we can get the exact effect on it how we want to. So I might try and take away some highs. I feel like when we start modulating that with that LFO, that's going to help it really sit in the mix a bit better. So that's definitely going to need some work, but we can, just to start with, to get a feel for how it's going to work, just modulate it up a little bit more, and then start to bring it down. I'm going to copy this whistle across as well, I think, just to help transition. So I feel like that needs to come in sooner, that pad. Take away that high note as well. Doesn't need any resonance, it's not really having an effect on it. So let's just try it without this one in for the minute. Yeah, I feel like that's sitting much better in the mix now. So quite like that, so we're reversing into one another. Let's just get it sitting correctly. Like that. Might not need that whistle now listening to it. Might keep that whistle for the listener to know that a break is about to happen. So let's just move that one out. We can maybe start trying to texturize this one up a bit more that we resampled. Okay, so let's have a look, see what else we can do. So I don't feel like this one needs automating personally. Neither does that one, so they can just stay as they are. This pad definitely needs work transitioning out into the drop, but we'll figure that out later on. Drums, perks, low end is all fine, so it might just be a case of effects, vocals, and then just working on the transition between the end of the break and the drop. So let's see what we can do once we start adding some effects. So I don't know what this is doing. I think that's, yeah, that's the same as that one, so that can be deleted. I don't think there's anything left. Oh no, there's one more thing left on this. We've got plenty of sounds on the go, so I'm just going to delete that. So let's get this reverse whistle in and get him before the drop like we have on every other bit. We've also got this one to add in, so let's put him there because it seems to be a lot coming in here, so I don't think he's needed on this part. We might help this pad out by making it start 4 bars before. So even just having those few sounds in is helping that pad transition out now. And I could just hear in my head like a nice little fill to help transition it out. Boom, boom, cap, boom. So like boom, boom with the kick, cap with the clap, and then boom back in with a kick. And then we can fiddle with like the low end within the kick to have like a really nice effect on the dance floor. But let's not get too carried away with that. Keep that in our head as a mental note, and then focus on helping the transition between the drop and just filling out the little gaps, adding in the vocal hits, stuff like that. So we've added this noise in. We might even be able to stretch this back out to its original loop. So that might sound nice like here. Let's give that a go. And we're going to do what I said about dragging the notes out. So all we need to do is highlight them, drag them to the start of the clip now. I feel like this is just going to help just smooth things out and make it feel less disjointed. Remember that pad's probably a bit loud as well, will help that sit in the mix. Let's just see, out of interest, what it sounds like with a bit of LFO. Yeah, sounds cool. I think it's going to sound better once that pad's opened up and you can really hear it starting to move. But for the sake of just adding some modulation and adding some more character and movement, we're going to record it in. If you're trying to record in automation, when you hit record, it's going to start deleting the notes because it's expecting you to play in new notes. So what you need to do is just press Command Z, and then if you press this plus button, it's going to allow you then to add over the top of it. So in theory now, when I press record, and if I just automate this, there, it's automating over top of the MIDI notes that I've already put in, which is exactly what I want. Let's just go Command Z and get back to how it was. Cool, so you can just see in there that we've just drawn our own automation in. So let's see, I think I'm going to leave that acid out on this breakdown. I'm definitely going to have this back in on the drop though. So let's copy that across and get them lined up correctly. And I might see what it sounds like when we take the kick out. We will, for the sake of the video, try just an echo through send and return. So right click down on send and return, create new send and return, and then put the dry wet up to 100, change that to quarter note. Obviously you can change that depending on what effect you want, and then right click on here, show automation, and then bring that all the way up. See what this sounds like. So that might sound really nice because we've sort of still got that like transient of the bass hit coming through, and this is exactly why I use send and returns. Because if I was using that on the channel, like I mentioned before, too washed out, using this, we've still got that transient, so it's still going to cut through the mix, but I'm getting that effect of the echo on the quarter note, which is exactly what I want. So in the mix, sounds good to me. The only thing we can maybe change is it's on dotted at the moment. If we change to notes, that means it's definitely going to be on the note of the quarter note. So you can see there, if we actually look at the grid, you can see it's hitting there, there, and there, every quarter note. When it's on dotted, it's a bit more loose. You can sort of see it starts to hit around about there, then there, and then there. So for the effect I want to go for, because we haven't got that kick in, we can almost have it a bit looser. But if it had the kick in, it might be worth keeping it on the notes, so then it's in time with the kick. But these things are just things that you need to experiment within your own tracks, because it's going to vary track to track and person to person on whatever they desire. But for me, that's sounding sick. So it's really starting to come together now, but we can still get more out of it. So what I've just noticed is this Saturn is getting affected, but it isn't getting filtered. So because what's happening is we're sending the drums, or the hats, shall I say, to the send and return, sorry. So we're sending the hats to the send and return, which is this one here, D, and it's going back to the hats before it's getting filtered. So what we just want to do is put it on here, copy and paste this filter that we're using on the drum bus onto the Saturn. So if we solo the Saturn effect now, now we're filtering that send and return as well. So it's mimicking what the drum bus is doing. So you just need to be cautious of this. It needs to be done on like reverbs and stuff like that. Depends on the effect you're wanting to go for. But because that Saturn's quite in your face, we want to filter that out as well, so it sounds like it's coming from the drums and it's not disjointed or separate. So just remember that when using send and returns. And remember, if we use this filter again, which I'm sure we will in the main break, we just then need to replace it and copy and paste it again with this one, because this one's not going to have the same automation if we then affect later on in the track. So just remember to keep up on top of stuff like that, basic sort of like housekeeping stuff.